Hello, everybody, and welcome to the This Week in the Tech Boy podcast. This is a very special episode today because we are going to be doing our 2025 year-end review. So we're going to be talking about everything that we have been discussing over the course of this company, giving our predictions and the future of this company for 2026. Now, I think unabashedly we can say that this company's number one thing has been teen. That has been our theme. And yes, we launched the Teen of the Week segment in like September, which was a mistake that we, of course, regret for not launching sooner. But we have been really focused on the teenage market ever since 2025 and the latter end of 2024. When we talk about 2024, the TikTok ban is being kind of postponed. I talk about that. I talk about how the teenage girls of America are, of course, going to be growing in patriotism and love for the nation and love for America in a December 2024 podcast episode. And then, of course, we talk about the Red Note application, because remember my famous prediction that if TikTok was to be banned, and this was back in 2023, that if TikTok were to be banned, then you'd be seeing basically new versions of malware and VPNs and all these other apps that are worse than TikTok popping up. And what do we see? We saw the Red Note application coming in. And what was the Red Note application? Basically, Chinese TikTok that did not align with American values and American democratic values. And also, it had people learning Chinese. And, people always talk about, oh, Chinese is the language of the future. Chinese is, it's going to be the next language in the 30 years. You really need to be learning Chinese. Now, I'm not against learning a foreign language. I mean, it kind of, helps out your brain. But I mean, do you know what you're admitting when you say that Chinese is the language of the future? Do you know why English right now is the number one global language? It's because England went out and colonized the world, and then the colonies kind of declined back in the 50s, and the United States became the world superpower. And I personally would like the United States to remain the world's only sole superpower. I do not want Chinese to become the language of the future. So I really don't think that this Red Note application was a good idea, and I condemned that as well. Because, as you know, I personally have a set of morals and values. Of course, we talked about how they can be weaponized against us and how I'm actually in favor of their weaponization. But I actually have a set of morals and values, and one of those morals and values is that I don't think that we should be capitulating to China. Yeah, that's not a thing there. And even if it means that I have to criticize some teenagers for using the Chinese spy app, it's literally in Chinese, the Chinese spy app Red Note, I will criticize them for that. So when we get later into this podcast episode, we talk about, oh, you capitulated to the teens, oh, teen pack, oh, et cetera, et cetera. I can just pull this out and be like, no, look, I have a set of morals and values that I will not secede on. And then, of course, we talked about the Red Note teens and all the people who are on TikTok. And then 12 hours later, it came back. But we did get to interview some teens at the mall in the Galleria about this for, I guess, technically first Teen of the Week official segment. Now, of course, there are some underlying reasons as to what the real reasons for why this existed. And of course, we'll get into that later. But I do think that was very, very important to set the milestones for the company. In February, I even got some video footage of these teenagers who were walking on the floor of the mall. The waterfall of the mall. Now, they better be glad that the water wasn't falling on them at that time, but they were walking on the mall as well. And it really did lean into, where do all these people find these viral videos? There is so much content on the internet. The internet is of course, one of the greatest inventions known to man. And going into 2026, I'm trying to, become a lot more popular on the internet. We've had some struggles before of getting press. And I'm trying to get press as well. But there's all these brand new random media outlets that really no one has heard of. And these outlets that, need exposure. Outlets like the Tech Boy Media, other outlets, other news outlets that no one knows what's going on. And then, of course, you have this aspect of the influencers who are going around and, recording themselves in stores and in malls and Target, like we did back in the Woodlands in May and June. And, even back going into December, where I did the walk and vlog method, where I was pretending to record a tech video episode to get people to come up and talk to me. And I had a great time talking to the teens at Target last year, actually 2 years ago, back in like December of 2024. And, it really brings this question, which is, where are all these people? Like, we have all this information, and all of the applications that are used to find them are very bad. When we talk about Wiz, which once again is not Tinder for teens, it's supposed to be a friend-making application. It's trash. It's horrendous, right? When you talk about the local news, if you want to find a good local news website that's not just like Fox 26, KPRC, or the CBS affiliate, it's trash. And when you look at these websites, they are utter and complete trash. Like, let's pull up the Click to Houston website right now. Hopefully you can see this on the screen, but it is very laggy. Now, I think I might have a ad block on here, which is kind of speeding up. There's so many ads here on the website, and the news articles are just kind of, boring. They're bland. They're not like, inside like the Adventures in Odyssey episodes and articles are. When you go in, you have Emily Jones going around and investigating the case, right? She's always going back in time and reading these news articles, and it's like, what's going on? We don't really see any of these articles. And then, of course, you have these influencers who are running around asking people questions in the malls, asking people questions in the streets. And of course, there's some of the dumbest people known to the internet. They'll be like, what's the capital of the United States? And they'll be like, we have a capital? And I'm like, what? And of course, I do know that this is obviously being weaponized. This is obviously basically fake. And of course, I do recognize some of that stuff as well. But I mean, it's kind of shocking that there are people on the internet that you can find that do not know what the capital of the United States is. I mean, 100 people, and if they're all over like 7, 8 years old, they should all know what the capital of the nation in which they live is. That's just my opinion for that one is. I mean, these videos should not be able to be faked unless they basically go out there and hire and pay actors and actresses to pretend to not know what the capital of America is. Right. But this really led me to wonder, like, where are all these influencers? Where are all these, people? Where are all the journalists? Where is everybody? Right? There's such a glut of content, but it's all being filtered through like a few media sources, and my feed on YouTube, of course, is utter trash. And of course, we talk about the TikTok users and the TikTok dancers when we just loops back into our basically discussion over the TikTok ban back in January, which goes to where the heck are all these TikTok dancers? We talk about how these people basically stormed Ulta, 9 to 12-year-olds storming Ulta. You have these, influencers that are doing a whole bunch of stupid challenges. You have these people doing dances in the mall. And the only thing that I've ever seen in the mall is, myself going around and recording using the walk and vlog method, or, the people standing in the middle of the water fountain. But that only happened once, okay? And it didn't even go viral. We only got 250 views of that, which led me to investigate, and is a still continuing investigation of who are these Instatalk girls. Now, Instatalks and Instatalks123 are Instagram account that basically compiles all these people. They do not create the content; they just distribute the content. And it's just all these people running around and doing TikTok dances in public and in their houses. And I did some investigations into the backstories of these people that had a huge amounts of following count. At least 40,000 people were following them, and they didn't really say much. All they did was the TikTok dances. And, of course, people are going to criticize them for that. And, there is some basis for criticism to this, not because of whatever they're wearing or some nonsense like, it's in shut up. Okay, look, I read the Got Questions article. It's totally fine. But the criticism is that they did nothing and became powerful and popular. And my thing is that I actually think it's good that they did nothing to become powerful, but that the teens of the internet just overall need to have a lot more ambition. So that's why I set out on this investigation that is, of course, still ongoing after the TikTok investigation, which is we need to find these people and we need to find out what they're doing and what they're like, and we need to get them onto the show because obviously, one, it's going to boost views because obviously 40,000 views versus 4 views, we can average that out. We're going to have at least 20,000 views. And then I also want to know, like, really, what is it like being them? Like, what is it like being in their brain? It's kind of like being in, like the preppy person's brain. Like I have always said on podcast stream before, I'm obsessed, quote unquote, with preppy. Like, what is it like being in this person's brain? What's it like living like you are in a movie? Right? I've always been interested and obsessed with that and the glut of content that we have available to us right now. And I want to know what it's like. And obviously, I'm going to be open about this because I am, if anything, an honest person. Obviously, we want to weaponize the popularity for our game. Like, I have the ambition and the talent and the tech know-how, and of course, they have the popularity. We both win something like this. And, saying stuff like this, of course, is probably going to get you canceled. But quite frankly, I don't care. Okay, these people who are going to run around and be like, oh, you can't say stuff like that. It's wrong. Who cares? It's not wrong. Look, I am being honest and open about this. Like I talked about the weaponization of certain factors. People try to weaponize, say, religion or weaponize, some sort of debate online or weaponize, like what's your favorite cell phone company? Oh, Apple did this, Samsung did this. I am in favor of weaponizing it as long as it aligns with my agenda and the agendas of the Tech Boy Media, and and my beliefs. I believe that it's a good stepping stone to use people's beliefs and popularity and fame and weaponize it for your personal gain as long as you're not doing anything illegal or wrong. So if someone is trying to weaponize, I guess, faith against me, I can be like, no, I'm against that because people tend to believe that weaponizing faith is wrong. So, I can say that myself. And if I want to go out there and say, what you're doing out there is wrong for competitive gain, obviously I will do that. And that's what I'm going to also do with the same Instagram, investigating the Instagram, investigating the Instataku people, right? But I, of course, admire and look up to success. So I am not against these people. If these people have been able to create some sort of method that allows them to become popular by taking one picture and doing one TikTok dance, so the only thing that I'm upset about would be, of course, not being able to emulate that success myself, which is, of course, why later in the year we talk about the grave importance of artificial intelligence, which will level the playing field between people like me who have the intelligence and the technological abilities, and them who have the dance moves and, I guess, the quote unquote look for social media. We can level the playing field there, and of course, we're going to fight. Hopefully, we're going to win. Now, in this era, the spring era, right before the great MI6 era, which I have referenced online before but haven't really fully explained, we have to talk about one person who has contributed very much to the growth of this company. Of course, this was in the greatest ad of all time, and we're going to talk about this, the Christy Lamond War. So, Crush War, Christy Lamond over here, Christy Marie Lamond, her full government Canadian name, of course, entered into Tech Boy Media in 2025 ish. And, we did so much trolling of her, and it worked. It worked tremendously well. And like I said, we were basically weaponizing someone's popularity using their little orbit. It's like how a spaceship or a planet or whatever will sometimes use the orbit of a planet against itself so that you don't have to use as much fuel. So when they send out some, like Voyager or some deep space probe out into the great beyond, they might use Jupiter or Saturn's gravity and have it orbit around it and slingshot it out into the open without having to use extra fuel. It's very smart. It's very efficient. That's basically what we did with Christy Lamond over here. We talked about how we created a poster of her in my room. As you can see this on the screen. Hopefully you do like our new website redesign. I mean, we were able to put more ads in here. It's a nice banner ad up here. But anyway, we talked about how to put a poster in your room using Pixkit. And of course, I released this image to Christy Lamond. And of course, because she claims that her IQ is 95, I'm not going to make any comments on that as well. But she claims that her IQ is 95, and I'm going to believe her in this case. She fell for this image. And obviously, this image isn't real. I don't have images of random women hanging up in my bedroom. I mean, you've all seen my bedroom. We podcast out of that bedroom almost every week for 50 weeks, okay? We didn't put these podcasts up here, but she kind of freaked out a little bit as well. And of course, when she freaked out, what happened, guys? Controversy drove clicks to this article and clicks to this website. And I did the review, I did the article, and people got excited and they went on and clicked the website because the genuine reality is that we need more people to be reading this website as well. We also did some more marketing campaigns. You can go read this. The greatest marketing campaign of all time. And what a controversial video that was, not abroad over in Canada or in X-land, but it was controversial here in the MI6 era in the Woodlands, Texas, here closer to home with me. We'll get back to that and how that was the most controversial podcast episode in the Tech Boy media history. And of course, I don't apologize for that. But, then Crispy Lamond, of course, she has, I'm going to say she has a smarter IQ, right? She decided, of course, that going to war against SSA would be a great idea. And you know why? Because she was reading the SSALTW.blogspot.com. SSALTW was finally completed around April. Now, of course, she's going to claim that she didn't read this. She's going to claim that she didn't use crush theory and crush wars. She's going to claim that, she didn't know any of this before. But as you guys know, to prevent crush wars, the anti-crush defense forces went out and to the internet to basically say we are anti-crush, which basically defends us from all of the attacks, because it's basically saying, hey guys, we're anti-crush before the attacks happen. It's kind of like Star Wars or like the Iron Dome, it's there. So if you try to shoot a missile towards it, it's going to get intercepted and blown up. It also shows that we will use force if any times necessary, like we talked about in the Zoe 101 episode, when we talked about how Zoe basically used tremendous, overwhelming force against Logan, who accused that she had a crush on Jason, or whatever the kid who replaced Chase's name was. All right, tremendous, overwhelming, awe-inspiring force. She really taught them a lesson. She used the force of the media and probably student council on her side, right? Well, Crustwell Crispy and Lauren decided, hey, look, I know I've read the website and how SSA had used tremendous, overwhelming force, of course, in the Nika Wars of 2019 and in Crush War 3 of 2024. And a year to date afterwards, she decided to launch a Crush War, basically saying that, we were dating or something like that. And guys, guess what? I went out, did full force, and basically used every aspect of article at my disposal. I used every tool at my disposal to essentially go on some sort of tirade against her, and essentially declared war on Christy Marie Lamont. And guys, guess what happened? Oh, she blocked me. Oh, she got mad. Oh, we lost like 1 or 2 followers. We were in the midst of some random follower count war because she had been weaponizing my popularity. I'd been weaponizing her popularity, basically to become to see who would become the most popular and the most powerful, who would get the most reach. It was a great competition. Of course, I was winning with views on land and on sea, on the website and on podcast stream, where she would be engaging with stuff like this, and of course, she'd be driving traffic to the website. Crush War Christy Lamond, she decided to execute this war, and I decided, no, we're not going to sit around here and take it. We're going to go out there and secure the greatest victory of all time. And guess what happened? We did secure the greatest victory of all time after like a day worth, we kind of quote unquote capitulated by deleting the post that I didn't really care about anyway. And then she agreed basically to decide to defend people from the attacks in which that she had started. So, in March, April, she'd be like, oh, I'm dating the Tech Boy media. And now in like December, January, and so on and so forth, she'll be like, never happened, never gonna happen. We'll put it into that as well. So she went from being a quote unquote rival to, of course, our greatest ally. She went from like Germany in 1945 to Germany in 2025. So, it's really good work here done by us, and we only lost like 1 person. So I think that we did great work, guys, in this war. But then, of course, you go into the the Christy Marie Lamont era. Basically, it's over. She's kind of relevant, and she does kind of start this next war, which would be, of course, the MI6 investigation. As you guys know, we talked about how there was people who we believe that could, threaten power just by being super duper popular. So by being super duper popular, guys, what is the number one thing that we said that we were going to do? Guys, we ally with people like that as long as they're not doing anything more completely morally like depraved or wrong. Okay, I don't care if you're popular going out there on some motor spree, we're not going to be allying with you. So I said, okay, guys, we're going to be allying with this person. This is a threat. We cannot have people running around freezing my brain. We cannot have people running around who have this much power that could turn people against me. It's a very simple high school level geopolitics, something, of course, which I am an expert on, because right after this time we finished the SSA web series back in April. And of course, we had podcast episodes about that as well. Guys, guess what happened? Well, Christy Lamont, in an effort to, I guess, undermine this podcast and online, she'd be like, guys, SSA, LTW, guys, the Tech Boy has a crush on MI6. And as you guys know, I took multiple tests from Grok and ChatGPT and Gemini, and swore on camera, basically, like the famous thing where I put my hand on the Bible application and talked about, oh, you don't have a crush on Geneva. Basically, the same thing on podcast stream, guys. and basically the MI6 era, because we talked about MI6 more than the, I guess, greatest clique, the greatest organization in history. But prior to that, GCAM. There's like 44 mentions about GCAM, about 76 mentions about MI6. That is, of course, how important the MI6 era was. But during this MI6 era, of course, I was in and working in the Woodlands, the great Woodlands. The Woodlands is great. It's filled with a whole bunch of people on Reddit who hate the town. I think they should all sell their homes and move down to Houston where they can have, diversity, and, they should give me one of their houses. It'd be a great thing for them to do so they can put their money in them where their mouth is. But all the people on the Woodlands subreddit, of course, hate the Woodlands. We did an investigation where someone was stealing stuff from a Goodwill, and they were mad that I investigated the people who were stealing stuff from the Goodwill. They were mad at me. Yes, guys, this is one of the greatest missions in SSA history, where we used and talked about the Land Air Sea GPS tracker on TheTechBoy.org, and of course, we talked about the our experiences living there as well. And of course, we went to the press. So other than going into Target, and guys, guess what? Target was still in business, because it turns out having like a tiny percentage of a population boycott Target for some stupid reason. And of course, we had our viral Target moment where we talked about how, guys, if Target is if you don't steal from Target, you're not going to end up on a list from stealing from Target. Big brain activity there, guys. I mean, we talk about this podcast is going to run out of ideas and stuff to discuss. Notice I haven't really discussed anything about technology yet, but if there are people out there whining that Target has a database of people who stole from Target, I mean, this podcast is going to last for 100, 1,000, a million years, because I'm not afraid to say this. I'm smarter than you people. Like, let us be frank here. Let us be clear. I'm smarter than each and every one of you combined. Okay. But I digress from that as well. And we went into Target. We went into this park, and of course, we got to vlog with these, kids. And I really should have launched the Teen of the Week thing there, because I had access to lots of, I was making friends at my job, and I could have had some of the teens come on. They could have come into studio. I don't care. We were talking about precedent, but we had a whole bunch of precedent breaking activities before. I mean, Summer famously got into GCAM HQ in 5 hours. We got into someone else's HQ basically on my last day there, right after I taped. Before, actually, I taped my episode defending the teenagers from the overreaching and utterly stupid Texas cell phone ban. We got it in 2 hours, meaning I have crushed Summer's record by 60. And she has some other records that I think we're going to let her keep. But I think it's really funny that Summer basically set a record that in 2024 we were like, wow, guys, this record will stand for generations. No one in the history of America has ever done this before. Write her into the history books, and then of course we crushed that record a year and like a few months later. This was, of course, right before the historic 2024 summit to Babbling Brook Mall, obviously just Baybrook Mall. And of course, we did some videos at the Woodlands Mall. I should have done a lot more there as well. Should have been there like every week. Probably should have hosted a podcast episode there. Probably should have bought some advertising there as well. We can get into that. But school did come into session, and then we did start buying ads in Tomball High School. So that's great. But guys, the biggest scandal of 2025 was when my cousin got mad at me for saying this in that February podcast episode in which I defeated Christy DeMond. Guys, be prepared for the shock, the awe, the utter horror, and I guess alleged racism that I said in this episode. All these different types of looks, right? And people talk about that this theory of black girl magic, which obviously doesn't exist. I don't believe that. But I mean, I think we're about to witness right here is white girl magic. So without further ado, let's turn to the cameras. Let's go.
Rockets, red glare, the bombs bursting in the galaxy, that our flag was still there. That star spangled and
she has like a banana right there. Yes, she does.
Oh, the land home of the brave.
Wait,
Well,
so
guys,
wait.
shock and awe, horrible things that have come out of my mouth, which of course I do not apologize for. She got so mad about that. It was so funny. And of course, I forgive her for this, but she just doesn't have that aura. She just doesn't have that magic. And I am Teflon Tech. And I of course I did come back from this. I was like, oh no, guys, I go private from this. Oh, I'm so sorry for you for offending you with the blah blah blah. And of course I came back from that. Obviously, we are still here. I didn't shut down, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Because, guys, that was obviously an innocuous joke, and if you're mad about that, I honestly don't know what to say to you. But also, yes, me, famously me, who has never, ever in the history of this company ever teased any other girl of any other race, ever. Never in the history of America have I ever teased a white girl once. Never. Never happened, guys. See the SSA-LCW series for this. Never have I actually claimed that teenage dating was a threat to national security. Multiple times. Never have I claimed that cheerleading wasn't a sport.
Is cheerleading a sport because there's no video game for it? We think about all these other sports. We got basketball. What do they call it? 2K. You got football. You got retro ball. You got soccer. What's it called? FIFA. You got, I'm pretty sure there's a tennis video game. And if there isn't, is tennis a sport?
Well, guys.
I mean, you got
I guess you got to condemn me for that as well. Also, the Nicola War from 2019. Never have I ever teased them about this. Never have I ever declared them threats to national security. I mean, if anything, I was far too tame on this. I mean, I criticize everyone equally. And yes, I did put out a video defending them, but that was once in this era because people were absolutely roasting them over, quote, open fire. But that was only once there as well. Did I not declare war on Mali in the Battle of the Goldfish? Did I not invade 9th grade? Did I not rival Nika in 8th grade? Did I not defeat Crispy Lamont in the Lamont Wars at least 6 or 7 times? I mean, what, do you expect me to let Lamont just walk over me? I am far more vicious to Lamont than literally anyone else because obviously she deserves it. Crossroad Christine Lamont, who tried to rig an election, institute block wars, restart the Modesty Wars, failed her vice presidential bid in USGS, restarted Blonde Gate, has received her fair share of criticism. In fact, I have just criticized her more times in those 5 seconds than I have ever criticized anyone else before. If anything, I am far too nice to her, but she has been trolled more times than any hypothetical black girl that would be upset about this very, very funny joke. I mean, guys, we literally declared war on 2, Molly and Nika. We declared, actually no, 3, 2 people in real life and 1 person on the internet. I mean, what more could you possibly want? And even if I did not declare war on these people, even if I was just going around glazing them, I don't know what people call simps, obviously, which I wouldn't do. It's an innocuous joke. I didn't commit any federal crimes over here, people. But what? And of course, this basically destroyed the company for a few months because, of course, I had to go, private and go, oh, guys, we gotta be nice, guys. Toe the status line. But it kind of did destroy us in that as well. But it did bring on to a new era, an era, of course, which I wish I had joined sooner. An era in which I could have joined sooner if I wasn't around here fighting hypothetical wars because of comments I said in February. And, if I had just not been afraid, one of the things that we're not going to be in 2026 is just not being afraid. And we're going to be, a lot more vocal. We're going to be a lot more open about our beliefs. I am not going to, of course, capitulate to these people any longer. And obviously, we cannot have stuff like this happening anymore. We cannot keep being forced to keep going private and keep going unprivate because it basically has destroyed my reach. It destroyed the follower count. It destroyed it has destroyed the amount of views that I got because I was forced to go private. But I did make an executive decision to do that, and I probably should have just gone on to Instagram, so that we could enter into this era a lot faster than we entered. As you guys know, Hazel's Truth, who, I mean, like we talked about with the Instagram girls, we talked about with the TikTok dancers and all these people, amazing, obviously not mad at any of the new Instagram kids that have come on to the show. Of course, that we look up and admire to Lily, Christ Conservatives, all these people. You know, I'd say that he kind of started this era. All these accounts basically started popping up in August and September, right after she started her account. And you know, if I had been focused and pushing more on Instagram instead of arguing with Christy Lamont and fighting the stupid war at home and abroad, maybe we would have been able to get onto this train as fast as possible. But you know, I got onto this train. We're gonna call it I don't know, the Instagram era, back into in September, guys. So as you guys know, as we were coming home from my job in the Woodlands, what a great job it was, by the way, we had an influx of cash and capital that we wanted to invest in the company. And this cash and capital that wanted to be invested into the company, of course, we wanted to spend this on advertising. So we hit a large advertising blitz. We would say we hit Instagram. We tried to hit TikTok. They stole my money, but they won't approve my video yet. So we'll still hit TikTok. We hit Snapchat. We hit these newspapers across the internet, including Tomball High School's newspaper. And the thing is, I was like, wait a second. I'm not an expert on teens. I mean, I'm an expert on myself. I'm an expert on high school geopolitics. But I mean, you go read the SSA LTW website. Never has this happened in the history of America. No other person, I'm sorry, has ever been chased across his school 3 times in different schools. Never in the history of America has someone had to fight multiple crush wars. Never in the history of America did someone have a solution, a situation, sorry, that was as complex and complicated as Summer's entry into Glory High. Never happened, guys. Never in the history of America has anyone ever said, hey, guys, teenage dating is a threat to national security, and built a foreign policy on this, guys. One of a kind over here. And, you know, that's great. And I think it's great that we had the experiences that we had in the LTW website. But I would also like to have, you know, some normal, you know, experiences here so that I can, you know, be able to relate to the common man. Also, some of these normal experiences are fun. You know, I might have criticized the cheerleader dating the quarterback or whatever, but, you know, later into the LTW series, you realize, like, guys, we have to work with these teens, whether they like it or not. It's not like any explicit moral judgment, so we'll work with them, right? That's basically the policy that I have here for running this company as well. Basically, like, guys, if it's not that bad, like, we'll be on your side. We'll ally with you. But my point being is, like, some of these experiences, high school football games, not the high school dances, totally overrated and a waste of money. I've only been to one. That's because I was a volunteer, so I got it for free. But you know, high school football games, the great sport football. You know, like pep rallies, going around and being a detective, like Emily Jones, high school politics, like running for elections, running for president, running for secretary, all these things as well. And of course, the things that are happening in the devotional industrial complex, these kind of stories, and like the evangelicals and having the nice little youth group. You know, I kind of aspire to that as well, like that evangelical culture. We have like the books, and of course, they have like the purity culture, which I can kind of we can kind of debate around that. And of course, you have like the cool books and the radio programs and the podcast, and they're sitting there and they talk about like some random sin, like every 4 weeks it kind of repeats, but it's fine. You always have like the great kid in the church who knows everything and he plays baseball. It's so cool. Right. Anyway, I'm like, guys, I'm not really an expert on this culture. So what we should do is go to the people themselves and become an expert on their culture. So I said, hey guys, let's launch the Teen of the Week and interview these teens to find out what they think about what I believe. The mutually assured destruction, the like evangelical stuff that I was just talking about, the what high school was like for them. So then we can use this information so that we can put out advertisements. The only problem is that no one knew who we were. So how are we supposed to get these people to know who we are and without putting out the ads? And how are we supposed to get people to see the ads if we don't know who they are? So it's kind of like catch-22 chicken or egg scenario, which side tangent here, of course, the chicken obviously came first. This is not a hard question. The chicken came before the egg. God created the chicken. But we were able to meet some success for that as well. And of course, we went to the youth summit. And of course, that's how I found Hazel, who was tagged in their post. And then, of course, from her, we found all these other random teenagers who were creating content like this. And I was like, hey, I should do this. Of course, I had my YouTube channel for multiple years. Of course, was posting online, but we were finally back on private. I was like, we're gonna go full throttle ahead, and just basically went into the next generation of the Tech Boy Media, where we launched our Teen of the Week segment. We launched our ads across these Texas high schools, newspapers. We launched our ad across Instagram. We were able to bring on some podcast guests. We were able to get people to come on the show. Not as many people as we would like. I really wish we had more people coming on to the show, and our advertisers were not as successful as we like, but we were able to hit over 200 followers on Instagram, which is, amazing. It's not as much as we like, but that would be great. And, we talked about this, Bro, it's just Addie, we talked about her video, and she liked it. And I was like, wow, guys, this is amazing. And like I talked about Bro, it's just Addie before, she knows what she's doing. The stylized Bible photos. I mean, come on. Like, well, we all know what we're doing here, and of course, we all love it. That's the thing that these people, of course, get mad about. They're like, I can call out how people are weaponizing it, or how people are going out and using it in advertising or something like this. And I'm like, okay, like I see it's happening, and that's a good thing. Taking the stylized Bible pictures is a good thing, right? We just have to acknowledge that obviously this is stylized. Obviously, people are kind of faking. Obviously, people are playing for the cameras. I have to say, y'all are playing for the cameras. I see people like playing for the cameras all the time. The problem is that people like pretend like it's authentic. Oh wow, guys! I'm like, bro, anyone with two brain cells know that this is playing for the cameras. Like, okay, bro. But the atheists should be like, see, it's fake, guys. You're playing for the cameras. I'm like, no. Okay, and like what? You're just playing for the cameras. That's a bad thing. You go get your holy book and tell me how playing for the camera. Oh, what's that? Oh yeah, I forgot. You don't have one. You don't have a set of rules. You don't have a personal constitution. You just make up whatever you want. So honestly, y'all should be on my side, because at least I'm admitting to this, that I'm saying playing for the cameras is an okay thing. You go use your refutation against me. You go get your holy book and refute me, folks. But you can't do that. Now the Christians, of course, they might charge something Bible, but guys, I know the Bible, so I can go one-on-one with y'all as well. Of course, in this return to the woodlands, we went and reviewed the immersive game box. For some reason, I think I got a call, so my phone stopped recording, so we didn't get as much footage as we'd like. So we put up an article instead of a video. And of course, we launched across Instagram Reels and launched a very successful media company. And that's it, guys. We had a very successful 2025. Lies. Every single thing that, of course, I have told you was basically Coke. Guys, we got like 30,000 clicks a year, which might sound good, but it's not, especially for a website. We were stuck at 78 followers on Instagram. We basically hit 32 on the other channel before, of course, we had to pause production. No one is watching this podcast episode. We got like 3 people watching this podcast episode, and we have not been able to get into the press. When we see other people, we are paying. By the way, we are paying for press. Okay, we are utilizing as much money as humanly possible to make our name known, to make our name great, guys. We didn't end up in the Woodlands. Actually, we didn't end up in the Woodlands newspaper for free, but we did not end up in CBS News or Fox News, whatever, for free. We did not end up in all these publications and trying to get podcasts and radio interviews, etc., for free. Right. And of course, I have not been able to land any as of yet. Well, I've landed some, but I haven't been able to go on as of yet. And, things just do not work out well for me at all. Like, it's just a lot of cope. Like, I think about in 2024, when Summer was coming into the school, and she got, like, immediately placed in GCA, in GCAM, sorry. She got immediately placed in GCAM. Like, I mean, JVN had no choice. It was kind of like an executive decision. I mean, the principal of the school literally walked Summer into the GCAM controlled area of the auditorium. Okay, so this kind of reminds me back of like in 8th grade when this like detective kid came into school, like that middle of the year, and I was like, "Yeah, guys, you got to get this detective kid onto our side so we can win the Nika War." Well, after like 2 classes, he was already on Nika's side. So it's like, well, we didn't have a choice. So yeah, it's like Summer went over into the GCAM controlled area, and GCAM, of course, was basically in their post and fallout. They were in like the midst of the war is basically winding down. They're basically kind of collapsing. Right? You guys can read about this in SALTW, and I was like, okay, guys. So the problem with this is that we want to ally with Summer internally, but she's not doing well in the polls at all. Right? And we of course we tried helping people in the polls with Hazel from SDLTW before, and we just kind of helped to not get like nuked, not get destroyed in the World War V. But she didn't become as popular ever again, and she left. She's down in the polls. She's because of her affiliation with GCAM. Of course, we do not want our hard work going in. Oh, wow, guys, look, SSA is targeting this new girl. Oh, guys, look, let me have some random crush war. Initiated, of course, by ninth grade in the middle of February, March, instead of like the end of April, May. Okay, guys, it's a lot easier to fight a crush war that is short than fighting like a long one. Right, so of course we decided, okay, guys, we're not going to like super deeply ally with Summer, but of course we're going to continue our commitments to ally with GCAM most of the time. As you guys know, we did kind of like split for like one day. They did that whole bugging where we did commit Watergate, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't a 2024 recap podcast. It's a 2025 recap podcast. And well, what happened? Well, now she's kind of like popular online. She could have like signed a friendship contract back in like April of 2024, and obviously we should have signed. I tried to sign the contract and accept, but we were in the midst of a crush war, and we didn't do the like student council stuff, and when I got chased behind the woods, I probably should have put her on GNN. So then we would have had a picture of her to send to Damien when I got chased behind the woods. Right? It's all a bunch of stuff that really would have happened, which was just bad high school geopolitics. Now, looking back, now it was good high school geopolitics looking like from the perspective of me in 2024. It was good high school geopolitics. He's in GCAM, he's faltering, right? We don't want to be dragging SSA down. We have good bipartisan support, and we don't want to drag SSA down to make some random kid's name good to probably make a potential president. Literally looked at the polls, we're like, not a chance, you're not becoming president of anything, and GCAM was already in decline, right? And also, we didn't want to get embroiled in a long, what do they call them? Never-ending, forever crush war. We didn't want to be embroiled in that as well. Now, the obvious strategy to that would have been basically put out a huge blitz of anti-crush propaganda, and then ally closer with Summer, allow her into student council, but you don't filibuster, allow her into GNN as well. And then maybe we'd have better access in a mutual bilateral relationship, basically, where maybe she could be teen of the week. Maybe she could be podcast co-host. Who knows? But that's kind of like what we missed. I mean, we missed everything last year. Everything. We had of course, the technology and the experience to basically create an Instagram page, not back in August or June or whatever, but back in January, really. Okay, we were doing the same stuff over on X. We could have brought it over to Instagram, but I guess we were kind of scared of audience capture, which really did nothing. I mean, it has boosted our pages as well. And of course, I could have just basically been summarizing everything on NTB, and we didn't, which is very unfortunate and very sad. Now, with the media going out and talking to the media, I think we did that as well as we could have. Seeing as I only was able to afford stuff like that back in the summer, that was good. The Le Mans War, I think we handled that okay. But it's just like we missed so much. We did not succeed at really anything. And we're basically back at the same point as we were back in 2025. And I think that is so sad and depressing. And I kind of feel like I want to quit, especially with the way technology is today. Like, let's look at CES right now, guys. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. And it's like, what am I going to talk about? I got to write articles for TheTechBoy.org every day. Every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I got to come up with the topic for a podcast every week. And it's kind of like running out of stuff to discuss. Like, okay, someone else released a new AI chatbot. Congratulations. All right, let's look at the CES 2026 over here. A lollipop, like, okay, a $9 lollipop. I don't care. I'm not writing about some $9 lollipop. I might. A payable ThinkPad. I mean, that's cool. But once again, we have talked about this all throughout last year. What are people still doing on a laptop from 2025 that they can't do on 2024? What exactly are they going to be doing with these laptops that they cannot do today? I mean, it's just basically all internet content at this point, and this content is so hard to find. Back to the evangelical ties. I have always been interested in the media. I've always been interested in the Bible. It is a very interesting book. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Hey guys, the Bible is so interesting. You read it 30 minutes a day. It's the most interesting book I've ever read." Obviously, this is my opinion. That's not really true. There are some boring sections of the Bible. Okay, and I'm fine with saying that as well. But I've always been interested in like that evangelical media, like TV programs and podcasts and interviews of that nature. Like the kind of like devotionals and just like the whole media aspect of it all, like the big productions that they have in churches as well, and how it links up to like American patriotism. It just kind of links up with like how I feel. I just think it's so insanely cool. But I digress from that. And I try to go out there and find these media organizations, and I like can't really find them. Like, what else is there? Focus on the family and got questions. Like, what other interesting podcasts are there? Like I talk about, they have got to be these talk shows that are around. Like, did you have any other talk show? Like, I looked at I put this up on Reddit and people gave me some suggestions. They said Bryce Crawford's podcast. And this podcast, I'm pretty sure it's a great podcast, but it's just like, it's just about the Bible, which is great. The Bible is great. It's an amazing book. But like, is there anything else that has to do about life? And when I try to break away from these evangelical bubble and go talk about like real media, real news, real like fun, real social media, whatever. What else is there? Like, where do you sit down, talk to the camera, interesting about my life podcast? Where is this? Where are these vloggers? Where are these people who are sitting around? Like these Insta talkers. One of the problems that they have is that they sit around, they do their TikTok dance, and they get their likes, but they don't really do anything with it. Now, I'm pretty sure that, some of them, they might have, I saw this advertisement, someone advertising that they had an 80-something, 82, 83 IQ, which means I believe them because no sane person is going to go on a podcast and say, I have 82, 83 IQ. So, like, they might have slightly lower IQs, but, like, it's fine. I'll still listen to you talk. Also, like, these podcast clips, sports podcasts, all these people they post these clips. I'm like, who are these people? Who are any of these people? And I want to be one of those people going on all these podcasts, but no one can find who they are. And of course, that's why I feel like I'm just such a failure. Right now, I know some of these people are going to be like, oh, see, this is social media rotting the brain. This is social media that has corrupted the minds of a young generation. And of course, as our basic topic or overview of the Tech Boy Media 2025 has basically been Teen Pack, defending teens at home and abroad. Of course, I rebuke that. I talk about how, these stupid TikTok challenges, these stupid social media challenges. And I'm like, I mean, honestly, they were going to do it anyway, just weren't going to do it on camera. Okay, so banning social media is not going to ban stupidity. Okay, having a Snapchat account isn't going to make you 100 times dumber. Okay, these stupid, guys, screen times are bad, computers are bad. No, that's not how this works. But I see all these smiling faces online. They're doing so well, and of course, I kind of feel guilty for feeling mad at them because, well, not mad, because like I want to ally with them because it's kind of like a interpersonal conflict. Because it's like, I admired him, I admire their success, I admire their popularity, but in the same case, I am trying to compete with them and have been trying to compete with them and have utterly failed. And all these people, of course, are going to be like, take a break, leave, go outside, touch grass, and do what? Read a book? All right, guys, I'm literally recording in the library right now, and after this, I'm going to read a book. And guess what? No one will care. Okay, that is the entire thing. No one will care, guys. It is important that people care, and of course, the Christian base is gonna say, "Hey, guys, God cares. You're a very nice person. You're made in the image of God. Yeah, so was everyone else. So was everyone else. That doesn't make you special. Okay." But anyway, moving on. Take a break. Read a book that no one cares about. Become any more irrelevant. Heaven forbid that I have a different opinion. I will get nuked from orbit. Except in my case, getting nuked from orbit would actually be beneficial because it would bring me attention. Right? If I called someone out and even mildly criticize something, that might actually be a good thing. Being liked might actually be a good thing for me. People act like I'm being paid by some big entity, which, like, if I was being paid $7,000, would I be here? Would I be sitting in a rented room behind a screen if I was being paid $7,000 a month? Like, come on, be for real, people. Would I be sitting here talking while none of y'all read this? No, I pay for every interview. I pay the $2K a month fee to get booked on news and podcasts, which seems to be the only way out. And, I kind of feel like that any shred of success that I might have, when I'm looking at the camera, it's going to just fall. It's going to falter. And it might fall through. And I'm just staring, yapping into a wall, yapping at the camera, and no one really cares. I feel like that my intelligence has been wasted. But let's go into the hypothetical and say I leave this place, and then what? Like, no one likes or cares enough to watch, so what's the point? I still have to get exposure. I have to get the ad deals, which I have not really been able to do well, of course. I have not been able to get the uh, get the advertisers to come to the website, and I'm failing to get a taste of what other people are doing. These other people, they went out there with no money, with not much experience on camera, and they went out there and they became great. And I went out there with experience on camera and with money I had saved up and invested, and we're still here with like 3 views. I'm estimating that because this is pre-recorded. And I have to stand there and pretend that I'm okay, that I'm doing well, and fake it till I make it. And all y'all are gonna say is pray about it. And I'm like, that's supposed to fix something? I'll be in church, sitting around with like some random 6-year-old deacon I have no idea who it is, and they'll say hi, and I'll say hi. And I'm like, is it my? And I'll like email got questions, and I'll be like, hey guys, you can be friends with someone who's not your age. I'm like, what is it? Is it my fault that I don't know, want to make friends that are, within they went to high school in the same, age range as me, kinda, like, within the same gap, right? And they'll be like, oh well, God is in control, and of course God is in control. I always believed that, but like it doesn't. They'll be like, go to prayer, go to youth group, etc. Except we don't have any of that, and that is what the problem is. And that is the problem that I'm trying to solve for myself. Is that it's not like I can, if there was a youth group that I could really attend, I'd attend it. And even when I went to some of the youth groups, of course, they weren't really like posting. It was just basically a church service on a Wednesday, so I didn't really know many of the people. And of course, you need to have some sort of a way to say hi to someone without being weird. Okay, that's of course why we invented the teen of the week. We invented the walk and vlog method when you go to the malls and such, because then people are like, come to you instead of you have to go out to them. Or if you do have to go out to them, then you have a reason to talk to them. Right? I became popular in high school because I had a reason to talk to people, i.e., running for president. I was running for president, so I had a reason to go out there and say hi. There was zero reason for anyone to talk to me. I'm not some like vast genius, superhuman person. All right, if I'm walking on the middle of the street, okay, and I get like run over by a car, okay, no one's gonna be sitting around there like, hey guys, he was such a smart, blah blah blah, such a wise human being. He had such great knowledge of the industry. No one's gonna be like that. If I'm just standing in the middle of the road, the paparazzi has no reason to go around and talk to me. And of course, we have to acknowledge that. We have to stop pretending that praying and going to like some youth church or whatever is supposed to help with that, guys. We need to find new solutions. And the predictable questions, they'll be like, read the Bible. We can have friends of all ages. People don't understand that these people, of course, would try to change me. These people, the older people, would try to oppose my beliefs, and I won't stand for that. I won't stand for that. I will never ever capitulate to these people. And if I ask for help on a forum, on shows, or programs, or try to struggle session me, because once again, weaponizing religion. Like I'm saying, this is ridiculous. Even my own fans, Christy Lamont, Starlord, all these people oppose what I say basically half of the time. All right, and then my goodness, I have to be super duper nice. And apparently, I quote unquote scare people. We even got blocked by someone, even though I basically offered to give them an ad deal. That was so weird. What are we doing, people? Honestly, what are we doing? 30,000 views is nothing, especially with the hard work that goes into it. I'm running out of ideas and technology, and I'm supposed to be as nice as possible. And then I get abused a whole bunch of stuff, like being a spy or a criminal, and it's obviously not true. And of course, I'm terrified. Like, what if these people are speaking over me? What if I do commit a crime? And then I'm just like, oh, he failed. And of course, I blame myself for these missions and objectives. Of course, I blame myself for not allying harder with some. I blame myself for not jumping on Instagram trend, of course, for all the other IG teens did. And of course, I feel lost and alone. And it's like nobody cares because they have no reason to care. I don't really provide a value or service to anyone. And, it's so sad. honestly, in my opinion. But I And sometimes I feel like quitting. Sometimes I just sit there and cry and be frustrated and be upset. But that's never made anyone great unless they're like quote unquote static. And then they go on social media and cry and then they'll get flamed. But they will get the likes and view counts. But, I get super duper upset and upset and nervous. Of course, I feel guilty for trying to compete with these people and kind of feeling quote unquote jealous of them, but looking up to them because of course I admire power and respect these people a lot. And of course, I can't go out there and say I'm upset with you because obviously, I can't go around with hi guys, I'm upset because you did something better than me, and then you want no. We got to be allies and friends with all these people, even if I disagree with them, because it's the only way to the top. But you know, I will never surrender. I will never give up. I'll never surrender to the radicals, to people online, or to the forces within. I will never capitulate. And like I said, SSA will lead the way. Just like in our series we finished online, we will not lose. We will never back down. We will never give up, no matter the forces that are against us, no matter how hard it is, no matter how we're doing in the polls, no matter what the opposition says. I make this promise to you. You will always get the unfiltered, uncensored opinion. We will not tweet for anyone. We will not tone it down. We will not capitulate. We will never surrender. We will not give up. Sure, going into 2026, I felt like I was a failure. Sure, going into 2026, we had no ad deals and no media brands, but I make this promise to you that I will be on a podcast, and then we're going to have over 10,000 followers on Instagram by the end of the year. We're going to have 1 million website hits by the end of the year. My name is going to be seen as great. We're going to be all across the internet, and it starts now. It starts without capitulating to these random people online. It starts without going around and having to apologize and go private every single time some trouble comes up. It starts with not having to apologize for the comments that I make. Look, I make this promise to you that everything I have said from 2020 to 25, I fully stand by, except for that one time I talked about a parental control application on TheTechBoy.org back in like 2020 or 2021. I disavow that, but every single other thing that I have talked about on the channel, that I've talked about on the show, that I've talked about on the web, that I have ever posted, that I have ever commented, and that I have ever shared, I fully stand by that today. And I will not surrender. And I believe that with hard work and with determination, and not just sitting around and praying, prayer is important, prayer works, right? But you got to go out there and you got to have action. You got to have boots on the ground. I will build this company, and I will use every breath in my body. I will use every dollar that I have. I will use every trick and knowledge that I have. I will make every connection that I can. I promise you that we are going to have the best year ever. And if I have to do a 2026 recap and react to this and say, guys, we failed like we failed in 2025, we failed to miss the boat, we failed. No, I failed in 2025, I failed in 2024, I failed in 2023, I failed in 2022, I failed in 2021, I failed in 2020. But 2026 is our year. I know how I talk about, they always think about that at church and stuff like that. But no, look, I'm going to make my dreams come true. I'm going to find all these like little evangelical media, patriotic media outlets and team up with them and see what they're doing. Maybe help make their websites that look like that they were made in 2000 look, modern. And I will respectfully compete with our competitors on our teenage competitors on Instagram. Sure, they might have the advantage, but I have the ambition. I mean, that was really the problem. 2025 was determined by the people. Do they have ambition or do they have access? The Instagram teens, they had the access, they had the popularity, they had the power. But like I was talking about, the person who was talking about Corinthians 13 didn't even know which Corinthians. They only had 4 posts, 10,000 followers, right? Well, I have the ambition. I will do what I need to do to succeed. I will work twice as hard, quadruple as hard as anyone else. We'll spend as much as we can. Because I'm tired of feeling like a failure. I'm tired of feeling lost and alone. I'm tired of hearing these random cliches of these just people yapping about, oh, just leave it in the hands of God. Oh, go to like some church youth group or whatever. No, the cliches are done. Okay? Like I was talking about the Bible, oh, it's so exciting. Yeah, guys, you do know that when you put someone in a virtual reality, like in Adventures in Odyssey, then the Bible becomes exciting. Like, guys. But I will use my knowledge and my controversial opinions and takes and not capitulate. So that 2026 becomes the best year. So that 2026 we become profitable, powerful, and popular. God bless. Tech talk to you later.